Good evening. Welcome back. Cap and Trade, episode 48. I am your host, Texans Cap. You can follow me on Twitter at TexansCap and also via newsletter at capandtrade.substack.com. Got a lot to get to tonight. Our co-host, Mr. Landry Locker, should be joining us in a few minutes, but I'll get things started off for us. So we got a few questions before the show started, and if you got any questions that you want to throw up on the chat board, post them up. We'll get to as many as we can, like we always do every week. Appreciate everybody listening in and joining in. The show's getting bigger and bigger each week, more and more followers. So I appreciate everybody joining the ride. But a lot of things to get to tonight. One thing I just want to start off with is the unfortunate situation that we all saw go down Monday night. And it's just a tough situation. It's tough to watch, and prayers out to Damar Hamlin and his family, and hope everything works out well for him. Looks like the league's going to continue on. I think that Cincinnati Buffalo game will probably end up being a no contest kind of situation, and then it'll just be 16 games for them. But going back to Houston and what we got going on here. So a lot to cover tonight. Right off the top, Andre Johnson, just saw the news about 30 minutes ago. Second time he's going to be a finalist for the Hall of Fame. Hopefully he gets in this time. He's well-deserved. Ring of honor for Houston. And, he would obviously go in as a Houston Texan. And, it's hopefully that John McClain can really, really pitch it and sell it this time around and seal the deal for it. So really looking forward to February when it comes to a Hall of Fame and the news that will be coming down at that time. It's a pretty stacked class for sure. But Andre Johnson seems like a shoo-in. I know it's kind of biased, and we're Houston fans, and we just want best for him. But it is exciting, and hopefully that will happen for him. But the Houston Texans have a very stressful, as Ryan listener up here throws up. Yep, Sunday's going to be so damn stressful. Very much so. There's it looks like Chicago is not going to have Justin Fields playing, so they're going to have, I think, Nathan Peterman starting as quarterback. So they're in full tank mode over there as well. And Houston's going up against the Indianapolis Colts, which no Jonathan Taylor. Now they're on QB 4. So Sam Ehlinger is going to start at quarterback, and Lovey and the Houston Texans continue on touting that this game is very important, that they want to win and finish the season on a high note. I get all that from a coaching standpoint, especially for a coach that's probably on his way out. He would like to finish on a strong note regardless. And, there's a lot of players on this roster that probably won't be here next year. And some of those players this may be their last game of their NFL career for all we know. And, those players, they want to end on a high note. And I get all that. But as a fan, and as someone who's going to be a fan, and many of y'all that are listening are also going to be fans next year and for years to come, you want that number one pick, right? You do not want to see a win this weekend. It doesn't seem like Chicago has any chance of beating the Minnesota Vikings, especially with Nathan Peterman throwing the ball or whatever they're going to be doing up there. So Houston needs to lose to keep that number one overall pick. And the discourse is going to be wild if they end up winning this game. And I think it's very real very real chance that they could pull off another win and end up falling back to the number 2 draft slot. So let's talk about that. So the first pick versus the number 2 pick and what that means for Houston. And you obviously want the number 1 pick. It kind of gives you full reign over the draft. You get exactly who you want. You don't have to worry about anything. If for some reason this team is not sold on Bryce Young, then you can look at moving down. There's going to be plenty of teams behind, the Falcons, the Colts. There's going to be plenty of teams behind that are going to be looking potentially to move up, and this team's going to have all kinds of choices there. So you hope that the number 1 draft pick holds for Houston and they don't pull off a win this weekend. But we'll jump right into it here. It looks like Mr. Landry is able to join us now, so we'll add him in here and get going on things. Let's see here. We swap that. There we go. Hey, welcome in.
What up? What up?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Good. Now we got things going. We touched on
you're in a different room, by the way.
I am. I finally got my office back, or at least 50-50. I'm splitting it now with my son with his game room side. But yeah, I'm super excited. It's the first time being back up here. I've been working off of a laptop screen. So imagine a little 14.5-inch screen with StreamYard and comments and talking points and everything, trying to fit all, work it all through here. So now I'm back to my nice 32-inch monitor and got my lighting back where it needs to be. And it
looks good, man.
Feels good to finally be back up here.
You're looking solid. You're looking
outstanding. But no, we touched a little bit on Andre Johnson and the news tonight of, we all knew he was going to be another finalist, but hopefully he gets in. Touched on that, but really kind of what I was diving into right off the top was what it means to have the number 1 pick versus the number 2 pick. And there's going to be arguments to be made on both sides, but obviously you want that number 1 pick. And it looks like Chicago is just in full tank mode, starting Nathan Peterman this weekend with Justin Fields in the sore hip, and he's not going to play. And then now we got Sam Ehlinger with the Colts. It feels like a Houston win is coming. It just feels that way. It kind of does to me. And, at this point, you really want to hold on to that number 1 pick. But what happens if we fall down to number 2? What are the options? Things like that. So if you want to dive off into that, go right ahead.
Well, first of all, having the number 1 pick versus number 2 pick, I don't even know how it's an argument. Like, yeah, there are exceptions. There's times where the dream can still be alive, but I think just from a buzz standpoint and the fact that you're on the clock essentially for 4 months and you're basically in control of the draft, I think that would go a long way for them. And they need interest. There's empty seats, all that type of stuff. So with this organization, I think max buzz is important. And I don't even want to have like a what if they do this, what if they do that type of situation. Like no matter what the Texans want to do, whether it's trade, whether it's take a quarterback, whether it's not take a quarterback, like it's just better to have the number 1 pick than it is the number 2 pick. You could have convinced me, maybe a win over the Browns that caused you to get the number 2 pick. Like maybe that would mean something next year. Maybe that would mean something, 3 years from now. Remember when we beat Deshaun Watson when he came back his first game? But a meaningless win over the dog-butted Indianapolis Colts, there's no point. Like there's no payoff to it. Sure, there can still be a certain level of excitement. Sure, sometimes the number 2 pick ends up better than the number 1 pick. But as far as what they need, as far as, every advantage that you can have, having something tangible to show for this crappy season, yeah, having the number 1 pick's better than the number 2 pick. I don't even understand how you argue that. Now, if you say it's going to be fine regardless, okay, but it's still better to have the number 1 pick than the number 2 pick.
Yeah. There's plenty of points there you made that I agree with pretty much everything there. it all comes down to really what Casario's thoughts are on Bryce Young. If he's really, really sold on him, if it's a trait, a trait thing that concerns him with size or anything like that. It's all things that, hopefully we'll start to hear a little bit more as the offseason rolls on. But, if they slide down to that number 2 pick, it feels like I can't really decide if Chicago would just stay at number 1 and take like Henry Anderson, something like that, or if
Will Anderson.
I'm sorry, Will Anderson, and thinking about the Jets player, and or would they just auction it off to the highest bidder? You got to think the Colts would be moving up, the Falcons would be moving up, the Carolina might want to move up. I don't know that they got the draft equity to do it, but there's it almost seems like that would be the perfect situation for Chicago, is to auction off that pick, move down, and just gather more resources for them to continue that rebuild. And at that point, we assume right now at this point that Bryce Young would be the one that everybody would be trading up for. And then what does that mean for Houston when they go number 2? Do they circle back? Do they, circle back to a defensive player, look at Stroud, or maybe you look at a veteran quarterback in the offseason to kind of be a bridge option and go defense at number 2 and kind of carry things over till the next draft. There's a lot of different ways that things could go down if they end up winning this game this weekend. But obviously the best scenario would just be hopefully a loss comes in, move on from the coaching staff, have the number 1 draft pick, have full control over the draft, and make the, hopefully Caserio and them can make the best decision for the team at that number 1 draft slot.
And someone said today on because my whole video today, Locker Room on YouTube, was about this, the difference between number 1 and 2. I guess my good friend Paul Gallant is saying it's a loser mentality. No shit.
On a weird tirade in the past week.
No shit. It's a loser mentality. It's a losing organization where in a league where losing is rewarded. We didn't start out the season. You and I have been talking all season, and, we didn't start out against Indianapolis saying, damn, they should have lost that one. We didn't say that against Chicago. We didn't say that against Denver. Hell, we were glad they won the game against Jacksonville. It's not like we started this season saying, oh, they really need to tank for Bryce Young. I would have loved for them to have won 7-8 games and been in the mix. But at some point, losing is more beneficial than winning, especially when it becomes apparent that the head coach you have isn't going to be here. You're not building anything here. And any option that you want, including getting the quarterback, which is the most important thing, is rewarded. So, last year they beat the Chargers. That cost them Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, would you like to have Aiden Hutchinson right now? I would. The Jets, they're looking for a quarterback. They're talking about, kicking the tires on the ghost of Derek Carr. Do you think that the win that they had that cost them Trevor Lawrence, congratulations on the winning mentality. It doesn't matter. Is it a loser mentality? Yes. They're losers. They've been losers for 3 seasons now.
Yeah, winning this game doesn't make them.
No, it doesn't do anything. So yes, there is a losing mentality. You're absolutely right. It is a losing mentality. It's I don't know, what is that? Is that supposed to am I supposed to you can throw me in a locker or something like that? I don't know. What is that? Yeah, Captain Obvious. It's a losing mentality. You're rooting to lose. No kidding. I love Paul, but I don't okay. What's the consequence of the losing mentality? Is it gonna boil into next year? Did Jacksonville losing last year? Did that impact them this year? Did the Rams winning last year? Did that impact them? In a year-to-year league, what is the consequence of the losing mentality, especially when you assume, hopefully, that you're going to have a new coach and you're going to have an opportunity and fans are going to get excited because you have the number 1 pick. So, yeah, okay, losing mentality. Okay, whatever. Cool. That's great. Correct.
Yeah. Whatever, Paul.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I mean, it's critical to hopefully hold on to it, and we'll kind of go from there. But this weekend had a lot of good playoff games. We got to see Bryce Young ball out again against K-State. Started out a little rough, but for the most part, turned things around, put on a very good performance for the rest of the day, and just at least cemented it for me. And I know I'd put out a tweet about Stroud's performance, had me rethinking a little bit, and it had me rethinking, yeah, but it wasn't enough to sway me to come off of me wanting Bryce Young for the, been in that boat for probably 3 months now. So, the performance from Stroud didn't change my mind at all, but it maybe kind of pushed him up the board a little bit for me. But it's still going to come down to that traits versus production kind of thing. As I was listening to one with a former GM, Rick Spielman, who said that the size wouldn't concern him as a GM. He was a GM in Minnesota for quite a long time, very successful general manager, and he echoed pretty much my thoughts on Bryce Young, that he's got the mental processing, he's got that it mentality, he can make all the throws. Does he have a arm talent like Josh Allen? No. I mean, he's a smaller frame, but he can make all the throws, and he can mentally process the game quickly, make good decisions. He's able to protect himself. He has good pocket presence. If you just were to scratch off the height and the weight issue, he checks every other single box for me. And, but Stroud, he had a good game, and he has all those prototypical traits. And but it's not enough to sway my position. And I kind of figured the same would be for you, but I just wanted to ask you if that swayed you.
Yeah, it didn't do anything for me. I think it's always dangerous to judge a player by a bowl performance.
Yeah.
Justin Fields outplayed Trevor Lawrence. Who would you rather have in college?
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson sucked last year in the playoff game.
Yeah, he did. That's true.
Okay. So yeah, I don't look, when you watch Ohio State and you watch Alabama, and I'm not ever going to pretend to be a film guy. I'm not going to flip a switch and all of a sudden become a film guy during, this process. But I do watch as much college football as anybody. I try to balance, what you see there with what you see in the NFL. And I try to lean on guys who do such things like, Dane Brugler, Jeff Kavanaugh, Jordan Reed. Those are probably three of my favorites. They all like Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young. And just when you're watching the games, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone here. The Bill O'Brien, Bryce Young making plays in the Bill O'Brien scheme. It seems to kind of translate a little bit more to what you do in the NFL, like the Ohio State system, the way that Ryan Day does things, the way that the receivers get open, how good the receivers are. And I'm not saying Alabama has bad players. I'm not saying that, but it just seems like those guys are a lot more open. It seems like he has a lot more time to throw. It seems like they're a lot better at playing with tempo. It seems like they're a lot better at finding mismatches and stuff like that. It seems like Bryce is having to, I know Sean Payton used the term kind of walk on water at times when he's making plays. So no, it really didn't change anything. If you told me that I had to rank someone second, I would put Stroud number 2. But even then, I wouldn't want to draft CJ Stroud in the top 10, top 15. He's just not. That's just not it. I would be willing to go a different direction if it's not the guy. It'll be interesting to see what they think of him. But Bryce Young is still QB1 for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd seen a little bit of discussion on the timeline today about the Mulugeta Quincy Avery connections with Stroud, and if that would give Houston any pause. And I've
actually talked to Brian Burney about this. We actually had a pretty long conversation, believe it or not. Look, they know they're going to have more clients here in Houston. They have a fine relationship. So if you think that David Mulugeta has some sort of remorse for the Watson thing, no, he doesn't. And Brian Burney doesn't, and I don't think Quincy does either. So that's not really a thing. I am amused though, going back to the film thing, I am amused. There are a lot of fake film guys this time of the year. And it's I wish some of these guys, and it seems like I'm kind of generalizing, but it's a lot. I wish y'all truly knew, because when I first started doing radio, I would make slight comments you watch the tape and stuff, and I was with Brian Broaddus, who's watching, the All 22 every day, Jeff Kavanaugh, who's doing it, and Dane Brugler was actually worked where I worked. And I don't think you guys really know what watching the tape means. Like, it's not going to YouTube and watching a few highlights or something like that and starting and pausing. Like, the guys who are really watching the tape, like, you don't have time to do it. Like, it's really like,
It's
if you're truly watching the tape,
it's not even
like,
fun to really
bro,
really
it takes, because I went and watched it with him a couple of times, and I was like, man, this just ain't me. Yeah. When if you're gonna say something like watch the tape, just realize that you're really kind of disrespecting guys who truly do it, because just one play, if you're truly watching tape, takes like at least 2 minutes. And that's not even counting when you start and pausing, because you're looking at different angles, you're looking at different things, you're rewatching. So like, just be careful with the way that you say watch the tape. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying I don't think you really realize what watch the tape really means. It's exhausting.
It is. I've tried it before.
I mean, I saw Kavanaugh doing this, like, in he's got his YouTube, his Cowboys thing now, but like, he was literally going with Broaddus, and they got the team tape. Dude, he wasn't going out like every day. Like, he was watching like 200 days. They were crunching like every prospect and stuff. Like, I'm not saying you even have to. Like, some of those guys probably watch too much tape and they get too much information. And I'm not like, the casual college football fan can have an opinion and it's fine. But don't say you're watching the tape because you dedicated 17 minutes to watching a Will Levis highlights. Like, it's a lot more complex than that. Yeah. Hell of a lot more complex than that.
Yeah.
She agrees.
Uh-oh. Pacey's upset. Oh, man. Let's see here. So another topic, well, we'll stay with the draft stuff, because there was one thing mentioned to me this past weekend that Anderson is pretty high up on Houston's list. And
he should be. I mean, he should be, rightfully so.
Right. And that's what I was about to say. Rightfully so. I just don't know. I haven't been able to get an assessment of where Young is on Houston's board right now. And board's going to change for the next 3 months, but a lot of that stuff is locked in with those kind of guys. The boards can change once they do draft interviews and combine and things like that. But for these types of players, those boards are pretty dang accurate. And I can't get a feel for the Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud thing with Caserio, but I do feel pretty confident that Anderson is what it wouldn't even shock me if he was number one on the board.
Yeah, he should be. I mean, that could be, if Will Anderson's used right. I mean, that could be like your Nick Bosa, that could be like your Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, like that type of game breaker. So yeah, he absolutely should be high on their board. Yeah. It's just a matter of if Bryce Young is 3 and Will Anderson's 1, like, what do you really want to do? But yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, we've been talking about this kid since he was a freshman, like we've been talking about this moment. Like,
he would have gone number 1 last year.
Maybe. Yeah. 2 years ago, he's a top 10 pick. So like, it's not some sort of, we've been hyping this kid up for a while. And this year, the production wasn't as significant, but everyone says that they were actually kind of improving his stock without the production. Like, they were moving him around, asking him to do a lot more, to where he might be better prepared. Like, if you're looking at the box score, you might think he had a down year, but he might be better prepared for the NFL because of the less production and the stuff that they were doing with him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It makes sense for me, at least. Yeah, it's just something we'll have to monitor through the process, and coaching staffs and what comes in and what kind of schemes. And
he ain't gonna get 31, is he? Pierce ain't giving it up. Pierce doesn't have to give up his jersey, so he's gonna have to get him a different number.
Can an edge linebacker be 30 in the 30s?
Parsons is 11.
I know they got much more lenient this year, because it freaks me out every time I see Thomas Booker with 56 lined up over the center, and it makes no sense to me. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, I don't see, and no, he shouldn't get 31 anyway if he wants it. That's
No.
Pierce's, man.
Yeah.
It's his. Got a lot of questions on the board. I've been starring some of the comments. We'll get to those a little bit here deeper into the show. So if you got any questions, throw them up there. We'll get to everything we can. The next topic, which is something we've discussed off and on this show for the past month or so, and we saw the NFL news report Sunday morning or Saturday afternoon that they'll do an evaluation on Lovey at the end of the season. That seems common sense. I mean, you do the evaluation at the end of the season. It's just weird timing, right before the last game. And, I've been saying that I've heard multiple times from more than one person that the decision has already been made, that they're going to move on. And I don't think there's any chance he comes back, but it just made me the timing of that release just kind of made me feel like that was a message out there to Lovey, like, we'll give you one more chance. This is your last look.
The decision's done.
I know it's so, but what I'm saying is it almost seemed like a little flag, like, hey, this is your last look. And man, the team just shit the bed. It just probably one of the, we keep wondering what's rock bottom for this team from a performance standpoint. And it felt like that was rock bottom this weekend. It was just, Davis Mills looked horrible. Players were making business decisions on tackles, and it felt like rock bottom. And so it's clear to me that Lovie Smith's going to be gone. And as for the head coach options, you
think it happens Monday?
Yeah, I hope they don't drag this crap out like they did.
Nah, they won't. They can't. They can't do that.
I think it's got to be rip the Band-Aid off. Appreciate it, Lovey. You got the ship righted. You did exactly what we needed you to do. Got everything. Made it feel like a functioning organization, a functioning team, and now we're ready to make the next step with somebody else. Appreciate your time. Take your cash and enjoy life, and move on. I don't foresee any like promotion like Romeo Crennel kind of thing like that, or any kind of glorified consultant role or anything like that. I think it's just a straight up, we'll see you. So it seems like from the things I hear, it's kind of a 1A, 1B between Gannon and D'Amico. Haven't really heard of any other big names being tied to Houston at this point, and obviously we could have some new names, maybe a Gerard Mayo or something like that. But I really hope it's not something like that. I really just want to get away from this whole New England thing.
Yeah.
I just show some width, so show some willingness to get away from what you've known for the last 25 years or 20 years in New England, and expand outside of your box and bring in a modern coach. And Gannon and D'Amico are both modern coaches. And so I feel like those are probably your top two. It wouldn't shock me if it was a Gannon that you see somebody like Frank Wright come over with him as offensive coordinator, something like that. And, that wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. I think that would be a very good, sound decision. And, D'Amico.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's something that worth keeping an eye on, and as for like a defensive coordinator, I think Gannon would come over as the play caller, but he'd probably snatch up one of his linebacker coaches or something like that out of Philadelphia. And that might be your kind of your potential staff. But I think those are your top two. I don't, that's why I say 1A, 1B. I think they're both just excellent choices between the two of them. I think they're both leaders. I think they're both, like I said, modern coaches. And the part that really intrigues me with Gannon is Philadelphia is by far the heaviest analytic driven team in the league. And Houston's gotten better. The what's now called the decision science team has expanded in the past 2 years. And I just wonder if Gannon,
is that one of Jack's sub programs?
Yes. That's actually one of the few things that he did right.
Yeah, but if you have an unlimited budget, you could have done that.
But it's always been a very slim department under previous administration. So it does just make me wonder if Gannon came over, like would that department would probably have to expand just from the system and from the environment that he comes from, coming from out of Philadelphia. But for me, those are my top two choices right now. Obviously, we might get a surprise name or somebody else pops up that
Hines Ward.
Why? But see, just threw me right off. Hines Ward. Yeah, so that would be my top two. And I just kind of wanted to get your take if you had any new names or anybody else that intrigues you.
No, I think that's a good list. I think you mentioned Mayo is wise too. I think he's going to get a shot. But yeah, I mean, it's Gannon. And I think if Gannon gets interviewed a second time, I would bet on him. Like I would bet on Gannon for sure. But
Ryan says Aaron Wilson mentioned last night on their podcast that D'Amico wasn't interested in coming to Houston. That wouldn't shock me either. I mean, he's going to have his pick. I don't think there's going to be as many openings as we had last year, but I think D'Amico will have his
choice. If he's not interested, he's not interested.
Yeah.
Good luck. But I mean, I think he's the guy for the gig, but
yeah.
It all changes. I mean, and I love Aaron, but I mean, there was like 50 different things last year going on, with him, like where, it was Gannon and then it was this, it was that. So
he talks to a lot of
agents. He talks to a lot of folks, but a lot of times folks are kind of telling you like
that's what I was about to say I
think he's closer. I don't want to like blow his but I think he's kind of close to Gannon. If I'm playing like follow the source, I don't know, but I think he's kind of.
I
don't think he's as in with the Ryan's camp as he is like the Gannon.
I think it comes from the agents. Is a lot of that.
You think?
But what you touched on right there was I do think some agents will plant things and Aaron.
Yeah, I mean that's the dangers. That's the dangers of the gig is that sometimes Yeah.
Let's see here. And then the other head coach name, and I don't think Harbaugh would be of any interest over here, but
that'd be funny though.
Feels like he's Indianapolis Tepper apparently talked to him out of Carolina. So it feels like it's Carolina, Indy, and Denver trying to angle for Harbaugh, and Irsay being the cheap owner is going to have a hard time competing with the Walmart family and Dave Tepper.
Boy, they got some bread, man. I saw the owner net worth. Like, I think they're worth like Lopez was listening today. I think they're worth like, was it 6 or 8 billion more than number 2 or something?
Yeah, I mean I
think Tepper's number 2, but I think they're like 14
Tepper is
Billy.
Worth a ton. And then
what did he do?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I remember when he bought the team, seeing his net worth compared to some of the other owners was a pretty drastic.
But the Walmart bread is
and Stan Kroenke with the Rams, he's married to the wife from the Walton family, so his wife is from the Walton family, so that's they're tied into 2 NFL organizations one way or another. But yeah, Irsay is going to have a hard time competing from a money aspect for Jim Harbaugh for sure, because Irsay, like I've said, and I've said it on here plenty of times, Indianapolis is one of the, I hate saying cheap, but they're one of the lowest spending organizations, especially when it comes to the roster. They're one of the cheapest teams in the league. So yeah. One other topic before we get to some of these questions. So it feels like there's a quarterback situation playing out, that something I'm going to be really interested in watching play out. And the middle class quarterback contract has become extinct. When you start seeing players like Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins that are getting paid almost close We'll take Aaron Rodgers out of the equation, but getting paid close to what the elite quarterbacks are getting paid. And that middle class contract has just vanished. It's either Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota type money where you're making $6, $7, $8 million a year, or you're Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins making $37, $36, $38 million a year. And I'm hoping that we may see a return of that middle class contract because you have Geno Smith, you have Daniel Jones, who's going to be a free agent, and you're going to have probably Derek Carr be a free agent. We'll see how y'all's bet between you and Cody plays out on that. And I think those kind of players really sets the stage for a potential return of that middle class contract. And my opinion is, I think you can build a successful team with a middle of the pack quarterback, given if his contract is in line with that.
Define success.
Making the playoffs, getting close to, getting at least into the divisional round, maybe trying to get into the conference championship, those kind of things. But what I'm trying to propose is, I think you can build a successful roster around a middle class contract because of the cost. As instead of having a quarterback who's whatever rankings you want to use, just say it's a quarterback who's a 15th best quarterback in the league, but he's getting paid like a top 5, top 7. That's where the team suffers and cannot build an adequate roster to supplement his performance because they have so much invested in the quarterback. So I'm hoping to see this middle class contract thing come back to fruition. It used to be around, but it just got shot all to hell. So I'm hoping these 3 players can, and Jimmy Garoppolo might be another name that kind of fits into that class if he gets out of San Francisco. And Tom Brady, I think, might be another one. I think he's willing to kind of keep his money down low. So, I don't know if you have any specific thoughts on that, but I think it's possible if the pay of the quarterback is in line with his performance, if they're a middle of the pack quarterback, and that should free up enough cap dollar resources, cash resources to build up the roster around that quarterback.
Like, what are you proposing? Are you proposing the Texans bring in Derek Carr?
Not so much proposing. It's something that's been kind of crossing my mind a little bit, that could the team do it if they were able to sign Derek Carr to, like, say $25 million a year, like his current contract is $38 million a year. Could you build a successful enough roster around Derek Carr if his pay was a little bit lower than what it is now? And would that be something that interests you?
No. I mean, like, hasn't Indianapolis kind of been doing that, like, for the last 4 years, like just bringing in vets, that are making middle class-ish type money? Like, you could, like, I just don't know. I don't know if that's really something that the Texans should be thinking about.
Okay.
I did get kind of scared, though, just wondering, like, thinking about, you talk about this weekend and your thoughts about CJ Stroud and, the quarterbacks and stuff like that. I watched Jarrett Stidham and I was like, what does Nick Caserio think of Jarrett Stidham right now and how good he looks right now?
He's a free agent too.
Yeah. And, that would be the most, like, you talk about getting away from Patriot Way and stuff like that. Like, that would be the most, like, Bill O'Brien, let's try to kick the tires on Ryan Mallett type of thing that I've ever seen. That would almost make me feel like we were just repeating what was going on with O'Brien.
Yeah.
But that was like the thing that I thought as I was watching that. I was like, okay, let's say the Texans do like Will Anderson. Let's say they draft Will Anderson. Let's say they draft other things. Where does Jarrett Stidham rank on the possibility of quarterbacks? Because I think he would be pretty high up on the list. I haven't heard anything. I don't know. It just seems, and quite honestly, if you want to kick the tires on Jarrett Stidham instead of, bringing in Derek Carr or Tannehill or whoever the hell else is going to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would be like the worst option, but I could very easily see old Nick Caserio
Feels like this trying to be
kicking the
smarter
tires
than
on
everybody
Tad
else.
Brown's son-in-law.
Tad Brown's son-in-law. I forgot about that. I feel like just trying to be smarter than
Tad Brown's daughter
else.
stole the show, by the way. She went viral the way she was looking in the suite.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
But no, it's something to stew on. It might be something to kind of dig into in the offseason a little bit. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of potential options. Yeah, I did, mention Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo, those type of players that probably get a little bit more than like what Mitch, what Trubisky did in Pittsburgh this year. I think he got $7.5 million APY. So we'll see. I think there's just I think it just feels like it's coming that way, and maybe completely off base. We'll have to see how it plays out, but we'll see. Let's try to get to some of the questions in here. Like I said, if you're listening in and you want to, thank you for joining in and watching us. We'll get to some of your questions on here, and I did have a few questions sent to me this morning before the show started, so we'll kind of start going through some of these. So, thoughts on trading Cleveland's pick to New Orleans for Peyton and recent bowl games make you feel any better about Stroud? I am not interested in Sean Payton one single bit.
No, I'm not really either.
Something just bugs the crap out of me.
He's a quitter. He's a quitter.
Like, that's the thing, is like things got a little.
He's a quitter.
Things got a little dark in New Orleans, and things got a little sideways. And he said,
like, if this were a Cowboys show, I would say yes. Like, if this were a Chargers show, I would say yes. If this were a Broncos show, I might even say yes. But I mean, if he hated life in a place that he was at for 15 years and he wanted to get out, and now all of a sudden he's just foaming at the mouth to get back, like, what, you think he's really going to be in it to win it? Like, in it to wait, a couple years? No, I don't need that guy here. I don't need that.
Plus the draft capital you're gonna have to give up. I mean, if they're really wanting a first rounder.
Well, they just traded a top 10 pick, so they're obviously going to want a first rounder.
Yeah. I mean,
they're going to want that second first rounder. They're going to want that second first rounder.
Coaching can win a lot of games.
No, it can, but I don't know how long-term of a fix he is, and I don't know how close he is to like making an immediate impact.
Yeah, that, or what if he just doesn't like here and he does the same thing again? So
yeah, no, I'm good.
And then the recent bowl game, we kind of talked about that. Make you feel any better about Stroud? Make you feel better? Yeah, I mean, he moves up the board a little bit, but still, we're both in agreement. Still, Bryce Young. Would you consider this a successful top 3 picks this year? Bryce Young, Quentin Johnson, and Jamar Gibbs, or Bryce Young, Bijan, and Jalen Hyatt? Either one of those would be. That'd be a home run at either of those 3, I think. But this team has a lot of areas to address. I do feel a little leery about going offense, 3 skill players like that with your first 3 picks, but certainly not going to hurt my feelings. And the team did go with a cornerback, a safety, and a linebacker last draft early on. So, hey, offense needs a little love as well. I think those would be, that would be fun. I mean, having Bijan or Jamari Gibbs with Damian Pierce, that would be very exciting. That would probably bring, like you said, the buzz back to this team. So I wouldn't hurt my feelings, like I said.
Yeah, that's my thing. I want to go wide receiver, QB, running back with those first 3. In any particular order. Any particular order. I mean, you can go Young, Bijan Robinson, Mims, or Boutte, or trade up for Smith and Jigba, or let Smith and Jigba fall in your lap. You can go Young, Johnston, Gibbs. Doesn't matter. Just get the skill positions right. Fix that offensive line in free agency. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, I had tweeted it out earlier that I think it was earlier this week that AJ Cann has quietly been performing above his previous efforts the past 4 weeks. He's been a fairly decent offensive guard. And while I don't think he should just be granted the starting position next year, the team needs to find some way to bring in some competition for him. But I feel like this team is, if they could just get a center that was really good.
No, they need a center bad.
That I think that kind of would be the glue that would just make this offensive line as a unit just that much better. I mean, we know the tackles are very good. We know that those two tackles should be here for the foreseeable future. I still, hopefully Kenny Green can turn things around and get back going. And then if AJ can is continue, above average type of performance, which is fine. And if you get a good center middle of all that, I think it ties it all together. And I think that would kind of get your offensive line going back in the right direction. The draft doesn't have a whole lot of centers, from my understanding. I haven't really dove into it too hard. There's 2 or 3 names that might be, options out there on day 2 and day 3. And we talked about free agency. There's only 2 or 3 really decent guys, Bradbury, Bozeman, and maybe McGovern. 2 of them are zone guys. One's a power guy. So it just kind of depends on what type of offensive scheme this team wants to run. But to me, that feels like one of the areas that you've got to come out of either free agency or draft with that position hopefully sewn up. Colts are 100% trading up if Bears get the pick. Wouldn't shock me one single bit. Somebody at
Eberflus knows them too.
Yeah, somebody had posted up a mock draft where they did a trade with Bears at number 1 and Colts trading up, and it was a number 4 to number 1. So they got the number 4 back. They got their 2nd round pick, their 4th round pick, and the next year's 1st round pick. So it's quite the haul. And that sounds about right. I mean, that's going from 4 to 1. We see Houston and Kansas City, what it took to move up from the 20s up to 10 and 11 for Watson and Mahomes.
2017.
Yep. So, I mean, those are just 1st round picks, but going from 4 to 1,
yeah,
that's going to require even more. So, yeah, Nick, I can definitely buy up on that Colts or the Falcons or the Panthers, it very well could be a high-priced auction if Bears get a hold of that number 1 pick. And it'd be fun to see it. Suck for Houston fans, but just from watching and evaluating, it'd be something fun to watch. We know we will have to overpay because we are bad, similar to the Jaguars, but what are some players to be willing to overpay for? Payne, Hardman, Edmonds, Bates. Yeah, the Texans tax will be live and well again this coming off season. I think the areas that are going to be strong is running back, which I don't like.
I know how you feel about that.
Yeah. I think one area that the team could really look at would be, let's see here. I think would be linebacker is one area the team can really.
You want to pay Roquan?
I don't know if I don't want to pay $20 million a year for him, but I think there's some other names that would be intriguing at linebacker. Levante Davis is a little bit old, but let's see here. Edmonds is one name, like he mentioned. Tremaine Edwards coming out of Buffalo, and then let's see here. Landon Roberts got some ties to Leighton Vander Esch.
He's always hurt, man.
I know.
He's good, but he's always hurt.
Yep.
Always hurt.
There's another name. I'm trying to get my.
I like Vander Esch, man, but God. Always hurt.
Let's see here. Let me get to my evaluation board here. Should have had this pulled up, ready to go, and I did not.
Slacker.
Yes. All right. Linebacker. Yeah, so TJ Edwards from Philadelphia, and then Vander Esch and David Long with the Tennessee Titans has quietly been putting together a very good season. And Tennessee's going to have difficulty retaining players this time around because they're upside down on the cap. And then Tremaine Edwards is another one. And then Jermaine Pratt out of Cincinnati is another name. So I think definitely you're going to have to overpay for somebody. Deron Payne, like you mentioned before here, Christopher is another player that we've talked about on this show a few times coming out of Washington. I just don't see. I'd be hard pressed to see Washington pay Deron Payne just after they paid Jonathan Allen and having that much invested on your interior defensive line. Maybe they just try to replace him through the draft. So Deron Payne is another name that would intrigue me. Bates at safety, I don't know, man. I think there's some options in the draft that folks could look at. The safety free agency class is a little weak. I think you got players. Oh man, Daron Harmon, Tayshaun Gibson. Ugh, I forgot about him. Hey, he was still playing.
Had an interception the other day.
Yeah. Julian Love out of. Yeah, I mean the safeties just and Bates doesn't really intrigue me. I think you go draft or find a lower level. Maybe Chauncey Gardner-Johnson gets out of Philadelphia, but I highly doubt it. I feel like he's going to get re-signed there, and just find a veteran type of a safety to bring in. Maybe Terrell Edmonds out of Pittsburgh. I was interested in him last year. Adrian Amos out of Green Bay. Players like that.
What is this? 2019?
Yeah, that's what happens. You pay market value for older players in free agency. But no, I think it's going to happen. The Texans tax will be live and well. Another one from Christopher. Do you think they should get guys on the veteran trade market and take on contracts from cap needy teams for lower draft picks?
Come on.
I don't think the team needs to be going down that path anymore. That's just where you bring in older players that are making more than their market value, and it's hard to really nail that down. And I mean, free agency is a crapshoot as it is, and trading for contracts is just the same thing as going into free agency. I think this team needs to focus on getting younger, getting faster, and focusing on the draft, and then you use the free agency to kind of fill in the gaps. That doesn't really interest me too much.
Yeah, I'm good on that. We don't need to be cute. Just be normal.
Yeah,
just be normal.
He tried to be too cute and smart the first two off seasons. I think
Marcus Cannon, the cap structuring, and all that. Just be normal.
QB1, wide receiver 1 in the draft. Combine that with a legit running back and Pierce, 2 bookend tackles, new uniforms. I think people would be legit excited with all those factors combined. Yeah.
Are we sure Pierce can carry the load?
No.
Yeah, I think we need to tap the brakes on that. Like I compare his rookie year to James Robinson.
Yeah.
That's my comparison. Like I would tap the brakes, and I like him, but I would ease that workload significantly.
You cannot depend on him to be the bell cow.
And he's still a very good player. He's still a very valuable asset. He can still get too close to 1,000 yards if you get him someone else. But I would really, really be careful in assuming that Dameon Pierce is a full workload, 20 carries a game back over an extended period of time. Be very careful about that.
Yeah. What do you think about now that they're getting into uniform changes?
Well, they should have. They should have a long time ago. These things have been kind of blah for a while. So the red helmets, it was probably their most it was probably the most approval that they've gotten this year on really anything. And I think it's a good idea. Change the uniforms, change the look, a little rebuild, rebuilding of the marketing and all that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It's weird how it takes that long. They were saying like an 8-month process, 8-month review with the league. Got to be in line with all their requirements on uniforms. But it feels like a pretty drastic change is coming down the pipeline when it comes to uniforms. And, I'm all for it. Whatever they can do to energize the fan base between draft picks and new quarterback and uniforms. But it's a 2024 kind of thing, right? On the uniforms?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Patrick wants to chose violence today by saying, CJ Stroud, you are a Houston Texan. No, thank you. Chris, Carr on a 1-year prove-it deal. Man,
No, I'm good.
I'd rather just go young and go big. Carr's not going to take a big discount. I think he's still going to be looking for a good bit of money, even if he gets to the free agency market. If Las Vegas ends up releasing him, bring back Brian Gain. I always kind of wonder what things would have been had they didn't do that swappy do or tried to pull that weird change, trying to get Caserio in here, and they fired Gain before they had the deal done. And then New England, did the tampering charges and all that. It just makes me wonder what would have been. Gain was one of the most conservative GMs from a spending standpoint. He did trade for the wide receiver out of Denver. At the last
Thomas.
Yeah, Demaryius Thomas. But I think
rest in peace.
Yeah. But he was, he didn't want to pay for Tyrann Mathieu. He didn't want to pay for
Kareem.
They didn't even talk to Kareem. The tackle out of New England that went to the Giants.
Nate Solder.
Yeah, they missed out on him. So he just didn't want to spend. He came up short, and that's what led into the crazy Tunsil trade and all that stuff, and things got all turned sideways. Let's see here. What else we got in here, man? There's a ton of comments in here. Just a lot of people chatting it up. Rokon with, yeah.
It would be sick. It would be sick.
It would be fantastic. I just have, man, you're going to be paying $20 million a year.
You gotta, but thing, like, I'm normally with you, but I mean, you're going to have a 4-year gap where your core is going to be rookies and young guys. So, I mean, if there was ever a time to, put together a contract where it's essentially like a 3-year deal, overpay for Roquan, let him kind of be the guy that goes in there and fights, and let Harris run around and show that athleticism, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
And then you can focus on offense in the
No, that would be, hey, I'm all for it, man. I would love to do that. I think Roquan is going to be the player that we do our faux contract negotiation on. Thinking about it.
When can we expect that?
Probably February-ish.
Okay. Planning ahead, huh?
Yeah.
2 months. Chestnut checkers.
Got to get you got to set goals, like he would be the agent side. I'll probably be the team side. I have like certain parameters that I shoot for, kind of like the two-lane contract negotiation competition where they kind of have their own set goals for everything. And, whether it's APY, guarantees, things like that. So it'll be fun. Let's see here. Is Minka a free agent? No, he signed a big extension with Pittsburgh. So he is not a free agent. Man, that's Greg Grissom is the man. Got to pay Roquan and Payne. Nobody's making on this team besides Tunsil and Howard when his guild does good. Yeah, I mean, this team can easily free up some money, free up some cap space. And it's, Cal McNair has no problem spending money. We've seen that year over year, whether it's on the roster, on the facilities, wherever it may be. He has no problem spending the money. They were the top spenders for 2 years in a row. And this year, I think they're around 15th or so. So I would be all for it. And the more and more I sit here and think about it, the more and more you get me more intrigued with Roquan Smith. That would be fun. The more I think about it over and over and over, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, and again, the same mentality with any other position we're talking about.
There's your boy, Tony Pollard. That's be something that you've been speaking on.
Be down with that too.
Rowe, man. So he's up in he's over in Las Vegas. Yeah, he is a free agent. or potential free agent. He's been playing behind Darren Waller, but Darren Waller's hurt half the time. So he's played 14 games, 410 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's better than pretty much every tight end here. What size is he? He's 6'6", 256. Just don't know if he's more of an inline guy or an outside guy, but he's 25. That's an interesting name. I'll have to do a little more research on Moreau to see if that's somebody that the team could be looking at, because tight end is a position that's going to need a lot of attention in the offseason. I feel like, we saw OJ Howard back on the field this past weekend, but he's been inactive a lot, and I think the only reason he was out on the field was because Teagan was hurt. But it feels like Teagan is the only name for a tight end that's going to be even usable for this roster next year. Akins might get re-signed, just come back to camp. There's no telling that he can repeat what he's putting on the field right now. But tight end's got to be a big position of need for this coming year. And I don't see the team using a first or second round pick on a tight end. I don't know, Landry, if you have different thoughts on that, but the team's going to have to address it one way or another.
Yeah, and it's a situation where actually, those extra third rounders and stuff that can actually be pretty valuable there. You can get pretty damn good tight end in that range. If the kid out of Notre Dame falls to the second round, maybe that's the guy you take in the second round. I don't know. I could easily see that happening. I could see a scenario where that happens. But yeah, there's Dalton Schultz is going to be on the market. Ingram's going to be back on the market. So there'll be some interesting tight end options. And
out there as well. But he's spread out guy.
Yeah. Well, maybe you need a spread out guy to add to like a traditional tight end. We've seen Nick Caserio and whether it was Belichick or Caserio, they drafted Gronk and Aaron Hernandez in the same draft, and they were paying both those guys at the same time. So maybe he's open to, trying to put together as many tight ends as possible.
Yeah. Let's see here. I really didn't have much else tonight. It was a shorter rundown list tonight. Covered got a little deep into a lot of topics instead, so we want more quality over quantity tonight when it comes to talking points. You got anything else you want to chat about, sir?
No, I'm just hoping for a loss and hoping to by the time we talk next week, we're talking about pick 1. That's really it.
The Texans have a 73% chance to beat the Colts on Sunday, according to ESPN Analytics.
73%? Wow. Okay, well, there we go. That's going to suck, but okay.
Wow. What's the line right now?
Who said that?
Somebody DM me that Jacob Infante. He's
the Colts are
he's some draft analyst guy. I don't know. Maybe he has access to that. Oh, wait, here it is. Yeah. Matchup predictor, 73%. Man, that's disappointing. Let's see what PFF has them at. PFF has Colts 2.5-point favorites, which is basically a draw. They're playing at home. Man, they don't really have a whole lot of their stuff up yet. Well, I agree with you.
All right.
The loss is the way to go. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's it.
No, I appreciate it, sir. I appreciate everybody listening in. We'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll be talking about the number 1 pick instead of the number 2 pick. And appreciate all the support. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button before you sign off. And make sure you subscribe to Landry's channel, The Locker Room. He's always got daily content coming out. So, and now he's king of the thumbnails.
Not yet.
Hey, they look pretty damn awesome so far, the ones I've seen. So
not yet, but yeah,
I need to go to the class as well. But yeah, no, I appreciate everybody. Landry, Hope you have a good evening, sir.
Let's get it, man. All right.
All right. Everybody have a good evening. With that, we will shut it down. Have a good night.
Man. See you, man.